Thanksgiving had barely started when Iris leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine, and announced for everyone to hear, "Still single, Lotus? 34 and alone." That's tough. No attempt to whisper, no hesitation, just a direct, calculated blow. Mom froze. Dad stared at his plate. Once again, no one spoke up for me. I set my fork down, feeling years of quiet pain harden into something sharper. "I wouldn't worry about me," I said. "I'm married." The room fell silent. Even the old clock in the hallway seemed to pause. They didn't realize it yet, but that single sentence was about to unravel everything. I grew up in that house. Same creaky floors, the same family photos lining the hallway, the same pine-scented candles my mother always lit for the holidays, as if a familiar smell could convince everyone we were the perfect family. But perfection only held up from a distance. Up close, the cracks were obvious. Conversations always revolved around Iris. Dad shrank from any conflict. Mom's eyes only softened when her younger daughter entered the room. I used to think I was imagining it. Kids invent stories to survive the imbalance. But somewhere between my 20s and 30s, the pattern became clear. Every milestone of mine was quietly brushed aside, while every one of Iris's was a family event. When Mom and Dad missed my college graduation because Iris had a can't miss sorority event, they called it an unfortunate overlap. When they skipped my birthday dinner 2 years in a row because Iris was touring wedding venues, Mom said, "You know how important this is for her," as if my life was just an afterthought. When I moved to Seattle and bought my condo on my own, I sent them photos. They never asked how it felt to do that alone. The truth was, they rarely asked about my life at all. Yet every holiday, I still made the 4-hour drive home, bringing pies, flowers, and gifts. I tried, maybe too hard. Evan used to tease me gently. "You don't have to earn a place that should already be yours." I'd smile like it didn't sting, like I didn't wonder if maybe I did. Walking into the house that afternoon, I felt the familiar tightness in my chest. The entryway looked the same. Mom's beloved heavy mirror, the coat rack leaning left, the faded rug Iris ruined in high school and never got blamed for. But I wasn't the same. Something inside me had shifted long before Thanksgiving. Some quiet part that stopped hoping they'd notice I wasn't okay. When I stepped into the kitchen, Mom hugged me with one arm while stirring gravy with the other. "Lotus, sweetheart, you made it," she said, her voice light but distracted. No questions about my drive, my work, my life. Her next words were already about Iris's honeymoon plans. Dad gave me a tired smile over a pot of mashed potatoes. I looked around. Iris wasn't there yet, but her presence was everywhere. Wedding photos, her big white dress, her beaming face next to Colin, covering the fridge like a shrine. My own wedding photo. Not a single one. Not even a printout. My stomach twisted. 8 months. 8 months since I'd mailed those invitations, tracked them, called, emailed, checked in. 8 months of silence from all of them. Mom finally glanced at me. "You did bring the cranberry sauce, right?" Of course. That was my role. Show up, contribute, stay quiet. I set the dish down and realized something unsettling. This was the first holiday where I wasn't sure why I'd come. Habit, maybe, or the tiny hope that this time would be different. But deep down, I already knew. The storm wasn't coming. It was already here. The tension started before dinner was even served. Iris breezed in 20 minutes late, her heels clicking across the floor like she owned every step. She kissed Mom on the cheek, hugged Dad like she hadn't seen him in years, and gave me a quick glance, barely a nod, like I was a distant coworker. "Traffic was insane," she announced, shrugging off her coat. "Colin dropped me off so he could park. Partners don't get holidays off, you know." Mom's eyes glowed with pride, the kind she saved only for Iris. That's what happens when you marry someone successful. The words weren't aimed at me, but they landed just the same. We moved toward the dining room, and I heard Iris mutter something under her breath, soft enough to hide, sharp enough to cut. Mom laughed, brittle and quick. Dad cleared his throat in that way that meant he'd heard something he wouldn't address. By the time we sat down, the hierarchy was set. Iris at the center, me as background noise. It was a role I'd played my whole life. Spoken over, brushed aside, expected to absorb whatever casual cruelty slipped out. But something was different in me this year. The words didn't sink into the same old place. They hovered, unsettled, looking for somewhere new to land. Mom launched into another recap of Iris's wedding. She never tired of reliving it. The venue had a wait list, but Iris found a way. And the flowers, oh, Lotus, you should have seen them. Breathtaking. I'd seen them twice online. Then Iris smirked, swirling her wine. Yeah, it was perfect. Everything went exactly the way it should. Honestly, I don't know how we'd top it. A beat. Not that anyone's competing. My jaw tightened. It was always like this. Every achievement of hers celebrated. Every part of me minimized. Flashbacks hit me in quick succession. Mom leaving my 8th grade recital early to pick up Iris from practice. Dad missing my scholarship dinner because Iris needed help with a project. Birthdays, graduations, milestones, all swallowed by Iris's orbit. And the worst part? I used to excuse it. I used to believe maybe they didn't mean it. But tonight, watching Iris's smile sharpen each time our parents laughed, I saw the truth. She wasn't careless. She was intentional. And as she clinked her glass, eyes glittering with the comfort of being untouchable, I knew she was winding up for something. A jab was coming. But this time, I wasn't the same girl who would just take it. Dinner should have been ordinary. Dry turkey, overcooked beans, Mom fussing with the gravy like she could fix the family by whisking harder. But the air was heavy, every clink of silverware louder than it should be. I sat at my old spot across from Iris, the seat I'd always taken, the seat where I learned to make myself smaller. Colin finally arrived and slipped into the chair beside her, giving me a polite smile, the kind people give when they're not sure whether to greet you or ignore you. Iris leaned into him, her voice bright and theatrical. An audience of 4 was enough for her to perform. As plates were passed, Mom kept steering the conversation back to Iris, her honeymoon, her new place, her holiday plans. Dad nodded along, occasionally adding a quiet MHM, like he couldn't risk speaking at the wrong time. Then Iris turned to me. Lotus, she said, drawing out my name, her tone sweet until it soured. At 34, still being single, is that a choice now? Mom inhaled sharply. Colin put down his fork. Even Dad looked up. I felt the comment hit, but not the way she intended. It struck something solid, something long past boiling. I wiped my fingers on my napkin and looked at her fully. That's interesting, I said softly. Why do you assume I'm single? Iris blinked, caught off guard. Well, are you not? The room paused, waiting. I heard the hallway clock ticking unevenly, like it wasn't sure it wanted to keep going. I set my napkin down. I'm married. Silence. Complete. Paralyzing silence. Mom's spoon froze midair. Dad's jaw tensed. Colin stared at Iris, waiting for her cue. But Iris just laughed, a quick, patronizing sound. Right. Married. Sure. To who? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. What mattered wasn't her disbelief. It was that I'd finally said it out loud, in the one place they never expected me to have anything worth announcing. Mom leaned forward, her voice low. Lotus, darling, if you were married, you would have told us. I did, I replied. No, honey, you didn't. I did, I repeated, calmer this time. 8 months ago. Their faces fell in sequence. Confusion, then denial, then something sharper. Fear. Iris scoffed, masking her tightening shoulders. Come on, we never got anything. Not an invite, not a call, nothing. I held her gaze. You didn't get them because someone made sure you wouldn't. Her smirk twitched. Excuse me. Mom's voice trembled. What are you implying, Lotus? I didn't answer. Instead, I reached for my phone, sliding it onto the table like a card in a poker game. Iris's hand went rigid around her wine glass. She knew something was coming, maybe not what, but enough to sense the shift in power. Dad swallowed hard. Lotus, what are you talking about? I tapped the screen and opened the first file. When the light from the phone reflected off the silverware, the room seemed to tilt, like the whole house was listening. I'm talking about the invitations, I said. The ones I mailed, the ones that were signed for, the ones that never made it to anyone but her. I didn't point at Iris. I didn't have to. Every eye at the table landed on her. Her lips parted, her shoulders stiffened, her mask, perfect for so long, finally cracked. And I hadn't even shown them the proof yet. I didn't rush. I let the silence settle, thick and unmoving, while Iris's fingers tightened around her glass like she could squeeze the truth back into the stem. This is ridiculous, she muttered. Nobody got anything from you, Lotus. If you were actually married, which I doubt, you would have made sure we knew. I turned the phone so everyone could see. The first record was simple, a tracking history. 5 envelopes, 5 destinations. Delivered, signed for, all on the same morning. Dad leaned closer, squinting. Signed. By who? I zoomed in. The signature wasn't just familiar. It was unmistakable. A looping eye that trailed into a tight scribble. Iris's signature. I watched the color drain from her face before she forced a laugh that didn't belong. Anyone can sign for mail, Lotus. Delivery people mess things up all the time. They didn't, I said, because I checked twice and the carrier confirmed it was received at this house. Mom's eyes flinched at the word confirmed, as if it pierced her denial. Dad's breathing grew shallow. Colin glanced between everyone like he'd just been dropped into a conversation he didn't understand. I swiped to the next screen. Email activity logs. Here, I said, the electronic invitations. They were open from this house's IP, then deleted. Mom clasped her hands. Maybe your father opened it by accident. I didn't, Dad said abruptly, his voice cracking. I don't even check that inbox. That alone was a revelation. Dad rarely contradicted Mom, and almost never in front of others. Mom's gaze darted to Iris. Sweetheart, do you know anything about this? Iris straightened. No, she said flatly, but her eyes betrayed her. I wasn't finished. I opened the call log next. I called on May 4th, May 11th, May 18th, 20th, 25th. I listed them slowly, letting each date settle like pebbles in a well. Voicemails, texts, even a message in the family group chat. Dad frowned. Group chat. I'm not in a group chat with you, Mom said. You were, I replied. Until someone removed me. That landed hard. Even Colin shifted. Iris, Mom whispered. Iris slammed her palms onto the table, so suddenly the silverware rattled. Why are you attacking me? Because you didn't get the attention you wanted? Because your life isn't as exciting as mine. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so familiar. The deflection, the arrogance, the certainty that if she refused responsibility loudly enough, everyone else would protect her. I'm attacking you. I asked, voice calm. You're the one who made sure my wedding happened without my family. Her jaw twitched. I didn't do anything. Yes, you did, I said. You signed for the mail. You opened the emails. You deleted them. And you let me think for 8 months that I meant that little to all of you. Mom gasped softly. Dad closed his eyes. And Iris, she broke. Not all at once, but in tiny fractures I could finally see. You're so dramatic, she snapped. You always have been. You take everything personally. I got married, I said, and none of you came. That stopped her. Stopped all of them. Dad swallowed. Lotus, why didn't you call again or come in person if it mattered that much? A spark of old pain flared, but I didn't raise my voice. I did call, over and over. I sent reminders. I begged. I gestured to the logs. I chased the people who should have been chasing me. Mom pressed a napkin to her lips like she could blot out the truth. We had no idea. Her voice wavered, the first crack in the story she wanted to believe. But Iris wasn't done. Maybe, she said quietly, maybe the invitations weren't meant to be seen. The words fell like acid. Mom stared at her. What does that mean? Iris's eyes flickered between panic and pride. It means, she whispered, that it wasn't a big deal. Her little beach wedding. 20 people. Come on. I wasn't going to let her ruin the momentum before my wedding. Dad froze. Mom's hand slipped from her mouth. Colin blinked like he'd never truly seen his wife before. You threw them away. Dad asked, voice trembling. I didn't throw them away, she snapped. I just kept them from distracting everyone. I was getting married. It was supposed to be my year, and mine didn't count? I asked quietly. She looked right at me, eyes glossy, jaw tight. No, she said. It should have hurt more. Maybe once it would have destroyed me. But in that moment, it clarified everything. I see, I whispered. Mom turned to Iris, her voice sharp for the first time in years. How could you? Iris recoiled. Don't make me the villain. Lotus has always been jealous. That was it. The moment I felt something inside me settle with absolute clarity. I'm not jealous of you, I said. I never have been. I'm hurt, and I'm done pretending it doesn't matter. I stood. My chair scraped against the tile. A small, final sound that cut through the room. Where are you going? Mom asked, almost panicked. Away, I said. Away from a table where I've been invisible my entire life. Dad rose halfway, reaching out. Lotus, wait. I shook my head. I spent 8 months waiting. I'm finished. As I turned toward the front door, Iris spoke again, raw and shaky. You ruined Thanksgiving. No, I said softly. You ruined my wedding. This is just the truth catching up to you. The hallway felt colder than the dining room, like the house itself didn't want me to leave. But I did. I walked past the mirror, past the photos, past the place where every version of me had tried to belong. And when I stepped outside, the night air hit my skin with something that felt like freedom. Behind me through the window, I saw them frozen, stunned, staring at the empty chair where I'd sat for decades. For the first time, they had to look at the space I left behind. I drove all the way back to Seattle in silence, the road stretching out like a clean line between who I had been and who I refused to be anymore. When I walked into our apartment, Evan didn't ask questions. He just wrapped his arms around me, grounding me in a way my own family never had. It finally happened, I said into his shoulder. He nodded like he'd been waiting for this moment. And you finally said what needed to be said. The days after were strangely quiet. Dad called, brief, cautious conversations, but real ones. He didn't defend. Iris didn't rewrite anything. He just listened. It was new. Unsteady, but new. Iris emailed a long, apologetic message that sounded like therapy had squeezed honesty out of her. I read it, but didn't reply. Healing wasn't a door I could walk through on command. Mom stayed silent. And for once, her silence didn't tear me apart. It clarified things. Evan's family invited us over for their Thanksgiving the next day. Laughter filled the house. People asked about my work, my life. They saw me. And as I sat at their table, I realized something almost frighteningly simple. This felt like home. In the weeks that followed, the ache softened into something I could finally set down. Not forgiveness, not yet, but clarity. I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I was someone who chose her own peace, her own family, her own life. And that choice felt steadier than anything I'd ever begged my parents for. If you've ever had to walk away to protect your heart, you're not alone. Tell me where you're listening from and share your story below. And if this one stayed with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next.